our negotiation skills, and how do we feel when we walk into the room? What are we doing before we walk into that room? How are we preparing for it? And I just took those conversations and really applied it to me as I was developing my negotiation style. And just started using that as a platform to just talk about how your compassion as a woman does not make you inferior when you walk into the room.
Hi, welcome to the CEO Spot. I'm Amy Walker, your host, and this is your place to be to get great information from other experts in the industry. And we're so grateful that you're taking some time to come and be with us. My guest today is Sheena Morgan. And Sheena, we're excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Amy.
Oh, you're very welcome. This is a topic that I can always get behind. Anything women empowerment, I'm on board. So let me introduce Sheena, and then we'll introduce our topic for the day. Sheena has been immersed in small business and diversity business community by developing and implementing programs, project management, economic development, program compliance, and diversity and inclusion. And her passion quickly enveloped the cause to educate, to inform, to empower business owners and professionals with critical and tangible tools to help them get to their goals and create really great outcomes while being able to have meaning and purpose behind their success. And what I love is today we are going to be talking about negotiating as a woman and how do we win in negotiations as a woman. And I love this topic because I really feel like, and here's my soapbox moment, I really feel like our best qualities as women entrepreneurs are our feminine qualities, our ability to perceive and pick up on the emotional climate, our ability to manage a lot of different thoughts and different needs from different people all around us, which we've been doing for centuries as women. So I feel like when we step into that, we've got to go in the masculine way and do things the way that the boys club does, that we leave behind our best assets, which is that, we figure out, I'm a mom to 5 boys, and I have had those moments where you're sitting there and you're like, everything's falling apart around me. You're like, what have I got that I can patch this together and we're going to keep on going? And like, we use that in business. A deal could be falling apart and we're looking around, we're like, okay, what have I got in my purse? I'm going to fix this right now. So I think this can be a great, fun conversation to have. But before we dive in, I really want to jump into you and your background and your story as an entrepreneur. How did you get started in this crazy journey of entrepreneurship?
Wow, well, that is a really interesting question. I actually have been working with entrepreneurs for over 20 years. So I had always told myself, I'm never going to be an entrepreneur. It's just such a hard life for them, just starting your business, trying to get things going. And over these 20 years, I have realized that I have this yearning to be an entrepreneur, and that there are things that I can do outside of a professional setting to really help business owners. So I decided 3 years ago to go ahead and just jump out there and let people know, hey, I'm here to help. I'm taking all of the skills that I have learned working through, corporate, and I just want to be a resource for you. So I started, just kind of those late nights, early mornings, lunch hours, just trying to put everything together, any little time that I could find to get Lingo, which is the name of my company, off of the ground. And it's been a wonderful journey. I've actually hit some of the pitfalls that I've, told business owners, don't do that. This is not what you want to do. And, I'm like, really, Sheena, you're teaching folks and you're going to do the exact same thing. But it is a journey. It really is. And I can say the most empowering thing about it is that I get to work with business owners that I've worked with on the corporate side
Mm-hmm.
now through my business. And I get to look at kind of their pains, the things that they're going through, their challenges in a completely different light because you're in that same boat with them. So lingo, yes, has just been kind of, my favorite baby. I have a son, he's 18, and he's like my number one, but lingo is just kind of my favorite baby right now, just watching it grow and, just kind of putting my footprint down. So
Awesome. I love it. Well, the thing that's so interesting about that entrepreneur journey is if all of us just did what we know to do, like business would be great, right? But for some reason, we don't always do what we know to do, and we go to this space of just getting into our emotions. So I can totally relate to that. I was teaching a workshop a week ago, and I was helping these clients write their marketing plans, and I'm like, Amy Walker, are you doing this right now? No, you're not. Get it together, girl.
yeah.
So it happens. We forgive you, we forgive me, and we keep moving forward. So let's talk about negotiations. You've been in the business world for a long time, and you've probably been a part of a lot of negotiations and seen a lot of negotiations. How did you start teaching and training and talking about specifically women negotiating from that feminine standpoint? Like, what got you started in that direction?
Really it was initially just meeting with other women in the companies that I worked in and just talking about kind of the stressors that we had when we walked into these rooms, and we were always the only woman in the room. For most of us, the only minority woman in the room. And we were in construction industry companies. So automatically they think that we're in there to take notes for the meeting, So that was always something that, kind of bothered us. And it was really just kind of a group of us getting together, just talking about some of the things that we could do to help just empower one another. So we started talking about our negotiation skills, and how do we feel when we walk into the room? What are we doing before we walk into that room? How are we preparing for it? And I just took those conversations and really applied it to me as I was developing my negotiation style. And just started using that as a platform to just talk about how your compassion as a woman does not make you inferior when you walk into the room.
It's your best asset that you bring to the table is the fact that you can create. I feel like we have the ability to, because of our compassionate nature, we have the ability to create mutually beneficial wins. And we think beyond just what we need and into what's going to create the most wins for the most people. My husband teases me that I always get what I want. I'm like, it's because I always find a way to match what I want with what's going to be better for other people around me. So of course, like, why wouldn't we win?
Yes, exactly. And I've talked about that ecosystem. When I walk into a room, I often do three things. The first thing I do is I reflect. I take time to make sure I remember the who, the what, the why of this conversation. And I say conversation because many of us have been taught that negotiation is a battle. You have to walk in and you have to win and the other side has to lose. And when you walk into a room with that in mind, then you've really failed yourself because you're not listening, you're not open to any other types of opportunities or options. You're going in with your, point A, and that's it. So really reflecting on why I am going into that negotiation, who it is that I'm talking to, trying to become more familiar with the person or the people across the table. And then empowering ourselves. We do a great job empowering one another. I mean, I'm all for, giving high fives and making sure that I'm encouraging, my sister next to me, hey, this is going to be great. But sometimes we forget to do that for ourselves, especially walking into situations where we're getting ready to negotiate. And not just from the standpoint of a corporate negotiation, but even from the standpoint of our personal or professional negotiations. So, how...
Right. One of the things that I love that you talked about there is, and I think we need to just draw this out, is that encouragement to ourselves. That is one of there are so many things that women are great at. I think that is one of the things that we could take some notes from the boys on, because a man walks out of a deal and if it didn't close, it was the other person's fault. You know, a woman walks out of a deal and if it didn't close, like, what did I do wrong? You know, like we beat
Right.
ourselves up. And I think we need to get better at saying some closed, some didn't, but great job, Sheena. You did awesome. Great job, Amy. You know, you went in, you listened, you presented your material, and some closed, some don't. So I think that's a really important part that will help us be better negotiators, is if we don't make the ending so traumatic when it didn't go the way that we wanted it to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a part of that is just our innate emotional nature as well. I know as a mom, it's like everything that you want to happen for your kids, you want to happen. And when it doesn't, I mean, it's like the winds are out of your sails, you know.
Right.
And it's that emotional tie just to everything that we do. So you're right. We really need to learn how to pat ourselves on the back, even when it's not, you know, a win, or we don't walk out with the outcome that we actually wanted. So yeah, that's a great point, Amy. Yeah.
Well, and it is, you know, I don't know if you probably have seen these stats before, but if a man has 25% of the qualifications listed on a job description, he applies because he thinks he's qualified, right? And a woman feels like she has to have 100%. So I think that, you know, part of it is, as women, we are very new to these corporate boardrooms. We're very new to these situations. Our grandmothers were not there, right? So we're like 2 generations in to being able to be in this spot with decision makers. And so, whereas men have been doing it for a long time. So they've learned to develop kind of that let it roll, let it go mentality. And I'm not saying every man is great at it and every woman struggles with it, but I just think we're a little bit newer to this space and we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace. That, you know, we are still very emotionally attached to outcomes, which is good. And we have to, I've had to learn that I can't try to be unemotional about my outcomes. I just have to learn to be emotional faster. Like go there, go to the depths of every tantrum I need to have and every tear I need to shed, and then move on. Because I can't stay in that space for a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another thing that came out of our, you know, little girl group as we were, you know, discussing our negotiation styles and everything was really being true to ourselves. I found when I first started being involved in negotiations that I would try and pattern myself after other people that I had seen negotiate contracts. And it was always an epic fail. I mean, always, undoubtedly, because I had no idea what their next move was going to be because that wasn't natural to me.
Right.
And in my corporate job, it was more so trying to make sure that I had that, you know, that same type of demeanor that everyone in the room had. And I had to learn that, you know, my facial expressions, my smiles, my quirky laugh at something that, you know, they said across the table was a part of me and a part of my style, and to embrace that and not really, you know, push it down. So that was also eye-opening for me. And I think for a lot of women, it's just being natural, being you. I read a statistic, or actually it was a little quote that a woman had put out on Facebook, and she was saying, you know, for most women that work in the corporate world, you really only get to see a small percentage of who they really are. So we're never our true 100% selves when we are working with others. And that was fascinating to me, yet true. And I can see how that has transcended over into negotiations. I mean, even when I was negotiating my last position, it was very much about trying to present my best self, or who I thought they might be interested in seeing.
Right.
But the true Sheena, you know, was not present. And I think that that really puts us at a disadvantage when we try and leave ourselves at the door, you know.
Absolutely, because those quirks that are uniquely Sheena, those are the best parts. And so why would we leave our best parts out and create this homogenized version of what we think an executive woman should look like? That is one of my favorite parts about entrepreneurship, though, I will say, is I feel like entrepreneurship really gives you the space to lead from a place of, this is who I am, this is what works for me, and this is why I am, I think that's why women are fleeing corporate America and starting business at rapid rates. We are the fastest growing sector in the economy in terms of business output. And I love reading the reports that come out about each year, what happened with women in business that year. But for a long time, we were starting businesses at more rapid rates, but we weren't increasing profits at more rapid rates. And that tide is changing. Mm-hmm. So now we're continuing to start more businesses, but we're also creating more to the overall revenue. We're starting to hire more. We're going after bigger deals. We're scaling our companies up. We really are making waves in the business world. And as we have more and more women-owned companies, one of the things I'd like for us to chat about is how can we as women support and elevate the other women-owned business owners and create a space where we can all win together and win better, because you can always do more together than you can do on your own. So do you have any thoughts or insights into that?
That is so interesting that you asked that. I had an opportunity to speak to a group of ladies last year, and I titled my presentation "The Growth Zone." And it really was about the internal work that we need to do on ourselves to really be ready to be a change agent in another woman's life, and a positive change agent. And one of the things that I talked about was, how do we tangibly impact other entrepreneurs, other women entrepreneurs, and not just have a gathering and giving out great resources, but how do we as women actually give something that is tangible to another female entrepreneur that she can look back on in maybe a week, a month, a year, 2 years, and say, you know what? Sheena really helped me here. Whatever it was that I gave her, she can look back and say, this really impacted my business to a point where I was able to grow. And so it's more than just the groups and the lunches and the meetings. It's really about us rolling up our sleeves and being willing to support one another. One of the examples I gave was, I had a friend of mine, she was opening up her own business. There was a great opportunity that I could have snatched up, and it would have been great for my business. But I realized that, she's trying to get herself going. This would be a great opportunity for me to, one, help her expand her network, introduce her to a potential client. And the introduction would have been well received because I knew this individual. So, they would have trusted the individual that I was referring them to. And I did that. And not only did I do that, but I was there as a support for her as she was working through this project. When she would hit kind of her walls, she was able to pick up the phone and call me. I was able to walk her through some of the scenarios that she was dealing with. But it was more than just me introducing her and saying, here you go, have fun with this, and I hope it works. So really, it's about, how do we step back from just empowering, but really become intentional about how we're impacting one another.
I love that. I was watching, guilty pleasure, I was watching the Red Table Talk this week with Jada Pinkett Smith. And it was the episode where she was talking about Black women and white women, and how we sometimes separate ourselves, and what do we do to get back on the same page. And I was listening to it, and I thought, I thought, this is not my reality, and it's because of my business relationships with women. And I think that when you're starting out in entrepreneurship, that you have this such laser focused on what I need for my business, because your business needs everything, right? And so you have this laser focus on what I need. And then you hit a point in your journey where you realize that I need to focus on what we need, because if I can bring more people into this, we're going to be able to create better. We'll have better output through collaboration. So I've had the most amazing collaborations with women across the board, across all races, across all religions, across all ages. And I have this tribe of women that we really, truly support each other. That, like, I'll be looking for speaking gigs for me, and I see one that's good for one of my friends, and I'll be like, I send it to her. I'm like, hey, you should apply for this gig. Or, someone will say, I'm looking for somebody who does this, and I'll say, oh, I know someone who does that, and you pass these referrals. Well, the thing that's so interesting to me about this is always the way business has been done in the male space. Like they create networks, they go golfing together, they do. And a lot of deals happen through that way of just like, let me connect you with someone that's in my network. And a lot of business flows that way. And I really think that we as women can break down a lot of barriers through our relationships in business as we co-create together, and we learn to collaborate, and we learn that I'm never going to create something as well on my own as I will if I team up with other people. So I love that you gave that talk and started helping people think that way. And I'll just say, if you don't have that supportive girl tribe yet, for our listeners, go get it. Like build it, create it, start it, do what you got to do to get it, because it's so valuable. And I really do think that for me, my best relationships in life, a lot of them were doors that opened because of my journey in entrepreneurship.
Oh, yes. I mean, it's really about getting out there and not being afraid to tell people, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. I have a great mentor and I've known her for years. And when I started my business, I knew this is the path that I wanted to go on. And my whole business is built around helping small minority women-owned firms focus their vision and their strategies so that they can become successful. Mm-hmm. And I found myself kind of in this just well of, oh my gosh, like something is not right. And I went to her and I talked to her and I said, I need you to help me refocus because, I'm out here teaching folks how to do this. And I am having a heck of a time, like getting my mind around why I'm so scattered right now. Mm-hmm. And in going to her and talking to her and helping and her helping me, really, it was a lot of, knocks in the back of the head, like, seriously, Sheena, get it together, But in talking to her, I was then able to open up more about what my business was doing. And she was like, well, now that I know that you're doing this, I can make sure I'm sending you these types of opportunities, or I can make sure that I'm sharing this type of stuff that you're putting out on, social media. But for some reason, what I've noticed is, we like to kind of keep our stuff to ourselves, and it's impossible for you to grow a network. It's impossible for you to get that support if you're not willing to be open and to share. And you're right, men do it so well. There are other ethnic groups that do it so well, and it's just like, we just have to learn how to be open and vulnerable, really.
So I'm going to share my top secret reason why I struggle with that, and then you can share what yours is, Kay, because it's probably different for all of us. But my top secret reason why that's hard for me and why I have that tendency to go it alone is because of experiences that I had in life where I allowed myself to fully trust and be, cared for by others who then left and put, it was traumatic in my life. And so it's those moments that make me feel like I need to be superwoman and do it all by myself, because if I actually depend on other people, then they can leave and let me down, but I can always depend on me. But the problem is there's only one of me, and I have limitations. I have mental limitations, I have emotional limitations, I have time limitations. There's just only so much that I can do. So that thinking, while it may have served me well as a child, it does not serve me well as a business owner, and I have to be aware of that. So there's my moment. Okay, what's yours? We're sharing secrets.
Mine, I am such an analytical thinker. So when I plan, I don't make one plan, I make like 4 or 5. And I figure after I've made 4 or 5 plans, I've covered everything. So I would tend not to share what was going on in my business, what my plans were, because I had a fear of someone finding a hole in one of my many plans, that I knew was sure ironclad was going to work. And it really was more so of a fear of them, yes, telling me this is not going to work, but also acknowledging, Sheena, you really do not know everything. I mean, I know I don't. Right. But as I'm working this stuff out, I'm like,
you don't want them to know that you don't.
Exactly. Exactly. So I have struggled with really being more open with what I'm planning, and then making sure that I'm talking to people that I trust are not going to take, this great idea that I thought of and run with it, but really being more open and trying to accept that what they're telling me is not criticism. It's constructive, and I need to take it that way and really, really look at it and work it over and figure out, okay, this is really a hole. How are you going to fill this gap now? Because if someone else has seen it, this is sure to happen if somebody else has seen it. So that is my reason. That's my secret.
That's your top secret.
Out there.
So it's always good to share the secrets, because then you're like, as soon as you say it, you're like, okay, well, that's dumb.
Right.
Obviously it's dumb. So can I share with you one thing, like, because I'm a few years ahead of you in business, that I've learned with that one?
Yes.
Every plan that you have is an educated guess the first time you launch it anyway. And every plan that you launch is going to be tested and tweaked anyway in order to get it better. So I had the opposite problem when I started, where I would launch with a whole bunch of holes, because I'm a visionary, I'm a big picture thinker. And I've had to learn to spend more effort getting my plans in place. But even with my real detailed analytical clients, every plan you launch the first time is your best educated guess, right? And we want to do a good job getting that educated guess, but you're always going to have to tweak it anyway. So you might as well get more visibility around it faster and get to the holes faster, because most people are not real put off by the holes. It's just your outcome doesn't quite work. So it's not like people get mad because you had a hole. It's just like, oh, that email's not performing the way we need it to, or, this registration link is broken. Okay, we'll fix it. So you kind of have to roll with that a little bit. Awesome. Well, I so have appreciated this conversation. I know we're about out of time here. I'd love for our listeners to be able to hear how they can get in touch with you and be in your space, and what's the best next step for them.
Absolutely. Well, they are welcome to join me on social media. You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram at LingoFocus, excuse me, at LingoFocus, or on my website, and that's lingofocus.com. So everything is really easy.
Nice.
Yes, I would love to engage with any of the listeners and really just build a great network. I am all about meeting new people, vetting out new ideas, and just learning what, has worked for others and what hasn't. So
awesome. Okay, so challenge for all of our viewers, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, because we have so many great interviews by phenomenal entrepreneurs who are leading in their industries, and I promise you're going to want all of them. And also share this with your girl tribe, those women who are entrepreneurs, who are building businesses just like you, and start that engaging conversation around, hey, what are you experiencing as you're trying to win more deals? And what can we do collectively that's going to help all of us to be able to create more business? Not just what can I get from you or what can I do for you, but what can we create together that's going to be better than what we can create alone? So share the video. Sheena, thank you so much for being on with us today. You have a beautiful spirit and a beautiful smile, and are super smart at what you do. I appreciate your time and your energy.
Thank you so much, Amy. I've enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Awesome. And for all of our entrepreneurs, you go out there and make it a powerful day. Thanks, everybody.